So I've got my makeup in one hand and your questions in another. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Carmel, and in today's video we have a little get ready with me plus a Q&A to mark the milestone of us hitting 10,000 subscribers here on the channel. I asked you to send in your questions and you sent in some really good ones. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, then please do keep on watching. So just a couple of things before we get into it. This is probably going to be a bit of a long video. I will obviously do my best to edit out all of my waffly bits, but you know what I'm like, I like to chat. And I will endeavour to tell you everything I'm putting on my face, but if I do not, it will all be listed in the description box down below. So I'm just going to kick off and pop some of my moisturiser on. This is the Embryolisse. The first thing I want to do is just to start by saying a big thank you for being here. I have never been about the numbers on this channel. It has never been something that I've focused on. But obviously, every time somebody clicks subscribe to this channel, I'm absolutely over the moon. I'm delighted. The fact that people tune in to me every single video or have even returned to my channel at all just means so much to me. And I still can't quite believe it, to be honest. Just going to go in with my NYX Brow Glue, the Crazy Lift. I've already filled in my eyebrows with my Glossier Brow Flick. So Heather and Laura asked me when I started using makeup and when I got into cosmetics. I've been into makeup for as long as I can remember. I guess I started first wearing it myself when I was about 12. I was 12 or 13 and I vividly remember buying a mascara. I think I must have saved up my pocket money, or I don't know how I got hold of it, but I got hold of a L'Oreal mascara. And we were not allowed to wear makeup to school at all, but you could get away with a little bit of mascara. So I wore this mascara to school, and I really remember being sat outside my form room, and my best friend, Michelle, at the time, she came up to me and she was like, "Wow, you've got eyelashes." And I was like, wow, yeah, I do. I have eyelashes. And that was kind of my first ever experience with it. And I didn't wear a full face of makeup until I was a lot older. But I would dabble in a bit of my mum's makeup, just using some concealer to carve out my brows a bit. I would dabble in my mum's makeup, sometimes with her knowing, sometimes without her knowing. And my mum was really into Avon. And I'm sure that a lot of your parents were the same, really into Avon. It used to be absolutely huge in the 90s. And I used to love, now I don't know, I should have Googled this. They were blush pearls or bronzing pearls. I don't know what they were, but I think it was those that kind of fueled my weird obsession with blush, because I must have had the rosiest cheeks as a kid, because obviously I couldn't apply makeup. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. My mum didn't guide me when it came to makeup or cosmetics or anything. She just let me go out looking like a clown. But yeah, those bronzing pearls or blush pearls, whatever they were, I loved them. Yeah, and obviously I wore Dream Matte Mousse. I really did love that product and loved drugstore makeup. That was my favourite because that's what was accessible to me. And Dana also asked me how has my makeup style evolved over each decade. So teens, 20s, 30s, I'm now my 40s. And what were my go-to products during each chapter of my life? So obviously, as a teen, drugstore and Avon, they were my go-to. Then when I got into like my 20s and my 30s, and I've spoken about this, I really got into high-end makeup. So Lancome, YSL, Armani. Didn't really use a whole lot of drugstore during that time. And to be honest, I don't think drugstore was that good back then, was it really? It's come a long way. I'm just going to pop a little bit of primer. This is just the Huda Beauty Easy Blur, just over some of my rosacea pimples, because it just helps to smooth them out a little bit. Yeah, I definitely moved on to higher end makeup. And in terms of go-to products, it was the more full coverage, the better. Okay, the more matte, the better. I don't know why, and I don't know whether other people had that same experience as me, but I wanted to wear Estee Lauder Double Wear. Anything that was going to hide my skin. And I don't know why, because I never had bad skin. But obviously, as the years went by and as my skin changed and matured, I realised that Honestly, less is kind of more, but I think everybody goes through something like that, don't they, as they're getting older. I then moved back towards drugstore makeup, and now I love all makeup. And I'm so happy that I do, because you don't need to spend a fortune on makeup for it to be good. Don't write things off just because they are more affordable. And my preferences now are much more glowy, much more lightweight than it used to be. But I think we're always evolving. And obviously there are trends as well. I think we can all admit that we are influenced by trends. We just are without even realizing it. And I think, yeah, that combined with my changing skin has definitely changed, my style and my preferences. But I'm more happy now with my makeup and my choices than I have ever been. So yeah, and I guess I care less now about what people think. My good friend Clara, please go and check out her channel. She's been one of the best things that's ever happened to me on my YouTube journey, is finding her and her friendship. Well, Clara asked me, what advice would you give to your younger self about makeup or skincare? I'm just going to go in with the Morphe colour corrector in the shade Peach. What advice would I give? Well, a lot. I think one of the main pieces of advice I would give my younger self is, please get out of the sun. Get out of the sun and get your SPF on. I started to wear SPF religiously in my 30s. Obviously, if I was on holiday, I would wear SPF. I didn't know. I didn't have a clue. I don't necessarily need a tan, but I loved to tan. Me and my friends would sit out and tan in the summer, and I really regret that. I used to go on sunbeds. My mum had a sunbed in her bedroom. I know, right? How we are all paying the price for that now. I went to my dermatologist and we were talking about my hyperpigmentation, which has developed only recently. And she said that a lot of women in their 40s and 50s are now suffering because of the damage that they did in their 20s, 20 years ago, or whatever. And yeah, I really regret that. But look, we can't go backwards and we can't change what we did, but we can try to protect our skin as much as we can now moving forward. And I think the other thing I would tell my younger self is, please stop worrying. Nobody cares. I have been so hard on myself from the ages I would say about 20 to maybe 38 or 39. I absolutely tormented myself. And I wish I could go back and tell myself that everything's going to be okay. That you are fine as you are. You are good enough. Nobody cares what you look like. I wish I could go back and tell her that because I feel like I wasted a lot of my time, a lot of my life worrying about what other people thought of me. And it's kind of sad, really, isn't it? I haven't used this in a while on camera, so I'll go in with the Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place Concealer. This is in the shade 2N. So I'll move on now to kind of the personal questions about me and my family and my life. So my beautiful friend Jen, another incredible friend that I've made through YouTube, she's amazing. Please check out her channel. I will link it down below. Her and Clara just make my day. Jen said, tell us about your family. Well, I guess I have my family, my immediate family, my husband and my kids, but I will just tell you briefly about the family that I came from. I am from the UK originally, but I live in Ireland, and I know that confuses people. I'll actually answer Anne-Marie's question as well, who said, where are you from up north? Because I can't place the accent. So I grew up in the UK. I grew up in Greater Manchester, and I lived there all of my life until my 30s. I think people struggle to place my specific accent because I lived in Yorkshire for such a long time. So I went to university in Yorkshire and I definitely picked up the twang. Although I was raised in the UK, neither of my parents are from the UK. So my mum is from Ireland and my dad is from the Middle East. My dad is from Iran. Both moved to the UK in the 60s and 70s. I am very, very close to my dad. My dad is my world. He is the most incredible person you will ever meet. The most gentle, beautiful, giving, selfless person. And I miss him so much. Obviously, we speak all the time. I'm a real daddy's girl. Even though I'm turning 43 in a few weeks, I'm still a daddy's girl. Unfortunately, I'm not very close with my mum. Yeah, that's for a different video altogether, but we are not very close, unfortunately. Not because I don't want to be close, but yeah, it's just the way it is. I didn't have the best relationship with my mum. We'll talk about that another time, okay? That'd be a long one to get into. On the face, I'm just going to go in with my Haus Labs foundation. I just need a foundation that I don't have to think about today. This is in the shade 210. And so in regards to my immediate family, I have an amazing husband, and he is from Ireland. So both Anne-Marie and Gina asked me how I ended up in Ireland, so I may as well answer that at the same time. So my amazing husband, Darren, we met, oh gosh, a long time ago. So we've been married almost 11 years and together almost 16 years. We met in Ireland. We had a long distance relationship for a good few years until he then moved over to the UK. Lived in the UK for a while, got married in Ireland actually, which was amazing. And then had our 2 children. So I have a daughter who is almost turning 10, which is crazy to me. And then I have a son who is 6, and they are the greatest kids on the planet. They are just amazing. They just bring me so much happiness every day. They are the type of kids you can literally take anywhere. You never have to worry about them. They're just gorgeous people. And my husband is amazing. My husband, you know, they say that you marry someone who's like your dad. I obviously did, because he's just like my dad. He is so patient and kind and giving and selfless. We are the opposites of one another though. So he's very chill, very let's look on the bright side of life. And I'm like, let's panic. Everything is a mess. The world is ending. So we complement each other in that way. We moved to Ireland in 2021, but we've been to a lot of different places before we settled in Ireland. I think I'm just going to let my face sit for a while before I do blush and bronzer, and I'm going to do my eyes. I'm doing things in a really weird order today. I know, don't get mad at me. I'm going to pop some concealer on my eyes. So Chrissy asked me, do I have another job apart from YouTube? So I was a teacher in the UK for many, many years. I was a teacher until I left the country. I taught in secondary schools in the UK, so high schools. My degree is in theology and philosophy. I know some people will be surprised at that. So I went ahead and I taught religious studies. I'm going to go in with this Morphe palette, Rose Frequency, and I'm just going to go in with this shade here. I loved religious studies so much because it taught me about life. In religious studies, you are going to learn about marriage and family life. You're going to learn about crime and punishment. You're going to learn about war and peace, racism and discrimination, all those kind of things that affect everybody on a day-to-day basis. And I just loved it. I loved learning about it because it was the only subject in the school where I got life lessons. And I had a truly amazing teacher. And I kind of knew that I wanted to go and study theology. And I was either going to be in MI5 or I was going to be a teacher. So I obviously opted for being a teacher. In the schools I worked in, it was a core subject. So along with English, maths and science, religion was a core subject and was examined in the same way as those subjects were. And do you know, the kids that I taught were amazing. They really enjoyed studying the subject. They learned about morality, they learned about ethics, they learned how to treat one another and how to have understanding for one another. And let's be honest, in the world that we're living in, we need that right now. I loved the teaching, I loved the kids, and I was actually the head of religion. I was actually the head of my department then. So that was my job until I had my daughter in 2015, and at the same time my husband was offered a new job. I'm going to be really annoying now and jump to a different palette. This is another Morphe one. This is Flickering Sands, and I love this shade up here. It's like a champagne gold shade. I'm just going to pop that on the lid. So my husband was offered a new job, but this job was in the Middle East, and obviously, we don't know anyone in the Middle East. We would be moving on our own, me, my husband, and my tiny little baby. We'd spoke for a long time about it and what that would look like. And we both spoke about the possibility of me giving up my career and becoming a stay-at-home mum, being a stay-at-home parent. Like that was so far removed from my train of thought and my husband's. It's not something we ever discussed. I guess because our careers were both important to us. But I think when you have children, it just changes you so much. Like, you change your perspective on everything. And I'd gone from my career being my everything to now me having this tiny little baby and this baby being my world. And for the first time ever, I was looking at life differently. And so we made the decision that, yeah, we were going to move to the Middle East on our own and I was going to stay at home. And I remember so vividly going in to the head teacher's office. And I remember handing in my notice, handing in my resignation, and her jaw hit the floor. She could not believe what was happening. She was like, have you really thought this through, Carmel? You're going to leave teaching? And basically, in my head, the way I rationalized it was, I was just leaving for a while. We were just going to see what happened. You know, this wasn't going to be forever. And so that was it. I really did underestimate the effect that giving up work would have on my mental health. I really just thought it would be great. And it was. And it's such a privilege to be able to raise your children and to be there for them at every moment. But giving up that purpose that was me as Carmel was very significant, because I then just became Carmel the mum. And that was my existence, was being a mum. I had no social interaction with anybody else unless I made it happen. And do you know what? I did make it happen, because I went out and I made friends, and I made some of the greatest friends ever out in Qatar, which is where we were. And actually, we had the best time over there. We really did love it. Going back into Rose Frequency and this shade here, just on the lash line. And so we spent a few years in the Middle East, and then I became pregnant with my son, and at the same time, my husband was offered a role in Canada, in Calgary, Alberta. We'd come this far, so we thought, why not? And we moved to Canada. But unfortunately, we moved out there, and it was the year before COVID. And once COVID hit, that was just a nightmare. That was just a nightmare. And for a stay-at-home parent with two little kids who didn't know anyone and couldn't get out to really meet anyone, only sporadically when they allowed us out, that was a disaster for me. And so we basically saw it as a sign to look to coming back over this side of the world. And we always kind of knew that we wanted to be in Ireland. And Clara actually asked me, is Ireland our forever home? I know people will be wondering why we didn't move to the UK, and I have nothing against the UK. It will always be in my heart. You know, I visited there just a few weeks ago and cried on the way home, because that's my home and I will always miss it. It's a little bit slower paced here. I knew that if we lived in the country, that my kids would live a little bit more of a sheltered life, and that's what I wanted for them, because kids just grow up so quick these days. And I knew they had a great education system here. You know, my husband turned out great. I obviously love it here. I have family and friends here. And yeah, it was just a no-brainer that we would move here, and that's it. We're here. And yes, I think this is our forever home, I would say, for sure. So a few people have asked me why I set up this YouTube channel. How did I get here? Laura asked me that, and so did lovely Das. I don't know your real name, so I'm going to have to just call you by your username. Beautiful Das, who's such a support to me. But also Steph at the Style Stumbler. I'm sure you all know who she is anyway, but she's amazing. If you want to go and watch some really authentic content that will make you think consciously about your spending, especially on makeup, then please do go and give her channel a follow. She asked me about what my motivation is behind my channel and where I see it going. So I'll just try and answer all those questions at once, because it just makes sense. So I'll chat while I put on this Catrice mascara. This is the Stay in Place tubing mascara, and I am loving this right now. So I have spoken about this on the channel, so I'm really sorry if I'm repeating myself. But basically, I have always been into makeup and beauty, like I explained, and I've always watched makeup and beauty on social media, so whether that be YouTube or whether it be Instagram. And at the same time, I was a big user of social media. Not that I had a following at all, because I'd never had a following. It was a great way for me to keep in touch with family and friends back home who I was away from. So I got married, I'd had a baby, I'd moved overseas, I'd given up my career, kind of lost myself a little bit. Obviously, I changed, my body had changed, and I was struggling with my identity, and I was kind of diving even deeper into social media, and kind of just got to a point in 2020 where I realized that social media was having a really negative effect on my mental health, because I was seeing things on Instagram, all these perfect people with their perfect homes and perfect lives, and they were making me feel terrible about myself. And after I'd had my son in 2019, I'd had a really bad and traumatic birth with him as well, and that really affected me, really affected me physically and emotionally, mentally. I really struggled, and I was very far away from home in Canada. COVID hit, and it was just a perfect storm, basically. And so I decided to give up social media, everything apart from the one platform that kept me sane, which was YouTube. Just going in with my Maybelline Lifter Sticks. This is in the shade 65. I'm just going to use this as a bronzer. I basically gave up Instagram, literally just quit, literally just stopped using it. But I did not give up YouTube, because YouTube for me was a really safe space. I followed some amazing creators on there, and they were real. They showed their real faces. I could see real skin, and nothing was filtered. And it was my safe space. Now, I don't just watch beauty on YouTube. I really mainly watch true crime on YouTube. But it was just my safe space. And when I gave up Instagram and Facebook, I started to watch a lot more content on YouTube. And, at the same time, I still had my love and my passion for makeup. And during that time where I was away from social media, I really did try and work on myself, because around the time when I gave it up, I was literally in the worst place in relation to how I looked ever. So I hated how I looked. I hated everything about myself. I would just tear myself down. I didn't need anybody to be mean to me, because I was doing a great job all by myself. I think I'm going to use my Morphe palette today. Yeah, Morphe in the shade Blind Date. Stepping away from social media was great, and it made me stop obsessing about myself. So every time I'd post a picture of me and whoever, I would literally just be honing in on myself and seeing what I needed to change about myself. And it just wasn't healthy. So being away from that was just so liberating. It was great. And because I was consuming a lot more YouTube and beauty content, I would read the comment section and just realize how amazing those communities were. And it just made me realize that social media didn't have to be a negative place. And I just got this thought into my head that I would love to have a YouTube channel. I would love that. I mean, the thought of putting myself out there was terrifying, but I was also turning 40 and had that need to kind of do something that was different. But I'd also done a lot of reading, because I have quite bad anxiety, which was just exacerbated when I gave up work. And a lot of that was do something that challenges yourself, do something that scares you, because you'll realize that it's not that scary. And that's what I did. And yeah, I basically recorded this video. And it was actually my first ever video on this channel, if you can believe that. And me and my husband were out for a meal, and I told him about it. And I knew if I told him about it, that was it, no going back, because I knew he would say to me, post it, which he did. And he was just like, oh my goodness, post it right now. Basically, I posted it, and I can promise you, I did not know what the heck I was doing. I didn't know. I didn't have a vision. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought nobody would watch it, but I would get it out of my system, and it was done. And I've always been that kind of person to kind of focus on regretting the things you do than the things you don't do. And I knew I needed to get that out of my system. And I did not think past posting that first video. And basically it went from there. I took it video by video. So for a long time, I was just posting one video a week. And I remember just being clueless. My husband would follow my YouTube channel way more closely than me. It was just something that I did on a pretty much a whim and didn't think into the future. So I didn't have a vision for it. I wanted to post authentic content that was real and honest. And I wanted people to see somebody who had dark under eyes, aging skin, hyperpigmentation, thin lips, an imperfect face. I wanted people to see that. And I wanted them to know that they were normal for looking like me. And that's what I wanted from it. And honestly, that has always been my goal. And now 10,000 subs in and 100 and whatever videos I've made, I still have that same goal. I want people to come to my channel and feel like they're in a real safe space. I want you to know that flawed skin like this is normal. I want you to go away feeling a little bit better about yourself. Don't understand why people post content with filters on, because that's not you. If someone sees you in real life, you're not going to look like that. Okay, you're not going to look like that. And you are not making that viewer feel good about themselves, because they are trying to reach something that is unattainable. And why would you want someone to leave your channel feeling like that? That's my vision for the future, and that's what I want people to get out of it. I'm just going to go in with my Wet n Wild setting powder. Okay, I really need to get a move on with these questions, don't I? So, beautiful Tinker, love you so much. You were just so kind to me. I appreciate you so much. She asked me, in what ways has YouTube changed my life? Such a great question. Obviously, I'm not a full-time content creator. I'm nowhere near being a full-time content creator. I've spoken about the fact that, you know, my life changed so much when I gave up my teaching career, and I kind of lost a bit of my identity, who I was. And this has given me something different outside being mum. And don't get me wrong, being a mum is my greatest achievement in life, and my kids will always be my number one priority. But this has given me something outside of them, but it's also helped my self-esteem so much. Even though I get people coming on and criticizing my appearance, it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't bother me, and I thought it would. And it's absolutely taught me not to be obsessing over how I look. Nobody cares. And I have accepted myself so much. Like, I go on the school run now with no makeup on, and I would never have done that before. I don't care. I have learned to embrace my flaws. Whereas before I started this channel, I would sit and obsess over how I looked. And now I don't care. And it is so liberating. And YouTube has given me that. So it's definitely changed my life in that way. I'm just going to use my Rare Beauty lip liner in the shade Worthy. And Tinker also asked, what do I like and not like about YouTube? So the best things about YouTube is my connection with you guys. Like, that obviously is the greatest thing that's happened to me through YouTube. I've gained so many friends that I've never met, but I feel like I know so well. And it's a really strange feeling, but it's great. I am so grateful for you guys. And another great thing is the relationships with other content creators. So I have a really great relationship with Clara and Jen, and just making those connections has been really great. I picked up another Revlon lipstick the other week. This is the Revlon Super Lustrous in the shade Daylight Delight 802. I'm just going to go in with a little bit of my MAC lip gloss. This is in the shade Casual. I'm just going to go over the top. I just fancy a little bit of a glossier lip today. So the worst things, I guess, for me are interactions with people that are not that pleasant. And I think most content creators will say the same thing. I can't believe how people can just log on and just say such nasty things to people when they don't know them at all. My brain cannot wrap my head around that. You know, they'll come on and they'll insult how you look. Now, that doesn't actually bother me, people insulting how I look. I don't care. I don't care if you think I'm ugly. I don't care if you hate a part of my face. That doesn't bother me. Just going in with some pressed powder from Florasis. But what I really hate is when people come on and question my integrity, who will accuse me of lying about something. I really do my best to be honest and true. But when people accuse you of lying, that really does hurt my feelings. I hate that. I really detest that. Like, say what you want about how I look, but don't question the type of person that I am, because I always stay honest and true. So that really does get to me. I'm just going to pop some of this into the inner corner. That is what it is. If you're opening yourself up, you're opening yourself up to all kinds of criticism, no matter what that might be. So luckily, I don't get a ton of hate comments, so I'm kind of lucky in that sense, but maybe because I don't get too many of them, the ones that I do get kind of do hurt. But look, you just move on. You have to move on. You cannot obsess about it if you are creating content. I'm just going to finish off with the Road Glazing Mist. This isn't a setting spray, but it kind of just nicely melts everything together. And when you put your heart and soul into something, a video, and the algorithm just kills it, that is a bit crushing. But that is just the nature of the beast. It's not just me, it happens to people with millions of subscribers. So yeah, I don't focus on the numbers too much, but obviously it's disheartening when, you know, you've worked hard and it just flops. But that is something I had to take accountability for, because obviously it wasn't a very good video to begin with. Rebecca asked me what advice I would give to a new YouTuber. Well, I am a new YouTuber. I'm definitely a new YouTuber still learning, still don't know what I'm doing. But I guess if I was to give advice to somebody starting out, I would just say, remember why you're doing this. Have that in your mind. What do you want to gain from this? If you want to be in it for the fame and the money, forget it. And even though, for example, me hitting 10K subscribers is amazing, YouTube isn't about subscribers, it's about views, and that's what matters. I said to myself at the beginning, when I knew that I wanted to continue with this, that I would put out content that other people wanted to see. I mean, it's all well and good putting out content that you enjoy, and you have to enjoy what you're doing. But you need to create content for other people, because at the end of the day, people come initially for your content. They're not there for you. And I've always stood by that and always said it. I know that people don't come here for me. They come here for the content, whether it's an opinion, whether I've got the same skin tone as them, whether they appreciate my honesty. I know that they are not here for me. Obviously, I do know that some people do return now because we have a great friendship, and that means, oh my gosh, so much to me. But you need to create content for other people. So find that balance, something that you enjoy, give people what they want and what they've come there for. And if you are going to create content and you are serious about it and you want to grow your channel, then you need to keep certain things in mind. So the first thing is that people don't have concentration spans. Okay, they don't have the time to sit through your silences and through your ums and your ahs. And I literally edit out every and ah. And believe me, I and ah a lot. Basically, just think about your audience all the time. What do they want to see and what do they not want to see? Take time to reply to people. It really does annoy me when some content creators never reply to any comments at all. That really does baffle me. Like, they won't reply to a single comment. And that for me is a real red flag. Yes, it's time consuming to sit and talk to people, but why are you doing it? Why are you doing it if you don't want to speak to people? Obviously, if you've got millions of comments, you're not going to be able to reply to them all, but at least spend an hour replying to some comments. Don't lose sight of your audience and the fact that you are in this position thanks to them. And I guess the final piece of advice for any new YouTuber or anybody thinking about it is YouTube's a roller coaster. So the highs are high, but the lows are crushing. So just take the rough with the smooth and just expect it to be a slog. It is a slog, but it's worth it if you are willing to put in the time and the effort. So just to move into a few of the miscellaneous questions, a really wonderful supporter to me. I don't even know your name, but you know who you are, Trax. Asked me, looking back, do you think you'd still choose to be a teacher now? And do you think your experience as a teacher helps you to create YouTube videos? Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, you probably see that in me. I did love teaching and I do love to teach. And not that I teach about makeup, because I know nothing about makeup. I'm not an MUA. I'm not trained. I'm pretty rubbish at makeup. But as for presenting something, I think I can do it. I know that people think I'm really, really confident. in front of the camera, and people thought that I was a really confident teacher, but I guess I just know how to fight through my fear and my anxiety. And I do love presenting things. I do love to talk. I know that. But I do think that my experience as a teacher, being highly organized and efficient has definitely helped me with the YouTube channel. I mean, you have to be organized to have a YouTube channel because otherwise it will just be chaos. And would I still be a teacher now? I mean, yeah, people ask me this all the time. And yeah, I would still choose to be a teacher. I mean, it's a vocation. I think it's in you, whether you are going to be a good teacher or not. And I really did adore it. And I would not be the person I am today without that career. Everything about it shaped who I am. And yes, it gave me confidence. It gave me direction. It gave me a purpose, and my purpose has changed now in life. But yes, I would choose to be a teacher now, but we'll see what happens. Obviously now I'm in the zone of, I would love to make YouTube my job. I would love that because I'm so passionate about it, and I've come so far now that I feel like giving up would be such a disservice now. But we'll see what happens. But no, I will never rule out going back to teaching. My beautiful friend Dawn, love you. So Dawn asked, what does your family think about you doing this? And do the kids think you're a cool mum being on YouTube? Well, the answer is, they don't know. My kids do not know. There are very few people that know that I do this at all. So obviously my husband, a couple of close friends who are not into makeup and beauty really and don't watch my stuff. Nobody I know apart from my husband watches my stuff. I've told nobody, okay, nobody, not a sinner. My children do not have a clue. And I don't plan on telling them. Obviously, if I made a career out of this, I would tell them. It's not that I'm embarrassed. I just don't really want them going into school and telling everybody my mum is a YouTuber, because I guess I just want this to be my thing. I don't want to gain a following that isn't organic. And I've always said this, I've always grown this channel organically, and I've never promoted my channel, never shared a video. I just want my growth to be organic. And I know if I told my friends and family that I have this channel, they would come and follow me, but they wouldn't watch my videos. So what's the point? And I see people promoting their channels on places like Reddit, and I just don't see the point, because you might gain a subscriber, but you're not going to gain a viewer. So I just want this to be real and true. And if the time comes that I make this into a career, then yeah, I'll tell my kids and my friends. But until then, no, I think it's just going to be our little thing. Like, I actually did create an Instagram page just so I could have the name, and then people started to follow me, and people that I knew started to follow me, and that freaked me out. That just proves to you that I did not plan on this being a future. I didn't know what I was doing when I started this. Still don't. Marlene asked a great question. If you could select 5 foundations, high-end and or drugstore, which ones would you select for all year round? From high-end, I would pick Haus Labs, the one that I have on today, and I would also pick the Lisa Eldridge Skin Tint because I love that. That would do me for all year round. And from the drugstore, I would pick the L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Foundation. I would pick the Maybelline Skin Tint, and I would also pick the L'Oreal Skin Tint as well. Those would be my 5 foundations for all year round. Sharon asked, what is it actually like to live in Ireland day to day? As an American, Ireland is seen as a place full of mystery, legends, and redheads. Love that. So Ireland on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going to lie, it took me a long while to adjust to life here in Ireland. So obviously I'm from the UK, which is half an hour on a plane. And a lot of people think that Ireland is in the UK, and it's not. Okay, it's not. So I'm a townie. I grew up in a town, busy town, people around all the time. And I now live in the countryside in Ireland, and things are very, very different. And that's a choice of mine. I wanted that. I wanted a slower pace of life, but it's really slow. So let's say, for example, I'm getting renovations done in my house at the minute, and trying to get anybody to come to the house, it's like, oh, it's so stressful. There's just nobody around, nobody turns up. Everybody's very blasé, very slow. And I'm not like that. I'm very much like, I need to get everything done, bash, bosh, bosh, done. And it's not like that here. So you have to adjust your way of thinking. I always moan on this channel about never getting products. I never get products before anybody else. Ever, because living in Ireland, if I order something, I'll be waiting 7 to 10 days for it. If I'm in the UK, I'll get it the same day or the next day. Everything is just a little bit slower here. But do you know what's amazing here? Is the community. I live in the most incredible community. It's really small. Everyone knows everyone, but my kids are involved in sports, in GAA, which is Gaelic football, and those communities are like family, and I've never experienced anything like it in my whole life. I know that I could ring up anyone from my community now if I had a problem, and they would be here like that. They would do anything for you. They're amazing. If you are walking down the street, everybody's going to say hello to you, and I love that. Whereas they do that in the north of England, but if you go to London, no, people would not care if you were passed away on the street. They would literally step over you. But all in all, it's a great place to be. And I'm very happy here. My kids are so happy here. You know, they go to a tiny little school with about 80 kids, and they are flourishing. They are very, very sheltered. You know, they're very different to town kids. And I like that. It's a great place to be. It's fun. You should come and visit, Sharon. Beautiful Shannon. Love you. You asked me, in Ireland, how many months are warm and how many months are cold, and does it affect your skincare and makeup routine? It is funny here in Ireland. It's very similar to where I'm from in the UK. So it's a very wet country. Very, 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 very wet. However, we have really good summers. So this summer was very hot. So I'd say we had 3 to 4 months of really hot weather, very hot, humid weather in the summer. But the rest of the time is just rainy. It doesn't get freezing here, so we didn't have a scrap of snow last year, not at all. But you'll get your cold, wintry days where you get the storms and you get battered by the wind and the rain. But everybody's just used to it here. And I guess like with anybody else with their skincare and makeup routine, in the winter, I wear a lot more makeup for some reason than I do in the summer. And my skin is very, very dry in the winter. And I think that came from when I lived in Canada, because it was so cold there. My skin really suffered and never really recovered after it. So I wear a lot more hydrating products in the winter time. But in the summer, like many people, I strip things back. Skin tints and very minimal makeup. I think we're lucky here to have just steady weather all year round, nothing too extreme. Asha's mom asked me, what is the best product or brand that blurs pores and minimises texture, both high-end and drugstore? Well, I think you're going to need a primer for that, and the only one I could really suggest is the one that I've used today, which is the Huda Beauty Easy Blur. This is the only one that I reach for. I mean, you can still see my texture. You're never really going to blur out texture too much, but I really enjoy this. I think it's very blurring. I think it minimises texture. I think it's fantastic. Honestly, I don't think you always need a primer, but if I was to recommend any, it would definitely be this one. Heather actually asked me, what is my favourite step in makeup? And I think it's going to be blush. I think it's blush. Leslie, you know, you are the same as me. We love blush. I genuinely think it comes from my skin tone. So I'm olive, but I have really sallow skin, really dull skin. And in the winter, yeah, I look sick. Really sick. So yes, blush is highly important to me in my skin tone, and I feel like it just brings me back to life. It just makes me look human. That and lipstick. Putting on your face is all well and good, but until I've got something on my lips, it doesn't feel like I'm put together. And honestly, I feel like you can be having the worst day in the world, but you pop a little bit of lipstick on and you feel better already. So yeah, those 2 steps, so pivotal to my makeup routine, and they just bring me joy. Lovely Charlene asked me, have I ever tried any of the Fenty or Danessa Myricks foundation sticks? I never tried the Fenty because I never heard great things about it. But would you believe I've never tried anything from Danessa Myricks? I know, that's shocking, isn't it? I think I'm going to do a video. I have an idea in my head of doing a full face of brands I've never tried before, and Danessa Myricks would be on there. If you really want me to try the Fenty foundation stick, I will. But I think you have enough foundation, Charlene. I know you have a drawer of unopened foundations, so use those first before we review the Fenty. Elisa asked me a really interesting question, actually. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm really sorry if I'm not. Elisa. It's really hard to know when you're reading somebody's name. First of all, thank you, Elisa, for all of your support. You are amazing. So she's actually asking me about my skin tone. So she said that she often gets classified as light skin tone because of her mixed heritage and freckles, but she's actually a medium skin tone with warm olive undertones. When you talk about shades that match your skin, I'm usually surprised. Are you a fair to light girly or at the lighter end of the medium spectrum? And that's such a great question because, do you know what? I think because my skin changes so much, and you can probably relate to this. I don't have freckles, but I have very, very changing skin. Like I said, in the winter, I look so pale, but I do get really good color in the summer. So I would class myself as having a light to medium skin tone, and I have flirted with going for the lighter shade on the medium spectrum, and it always ends up too dark on me, honestly. So I've kind of just learned to go for the darkest shade on the lightest end of the spectrum. I think it's really hard to figure out what skin tone you are. I don't think it helps that every brand is different when it comes to shades. I mean, finding my foundation shade it's the bane of my life. I really hate it because I often get it wrong. But when you get it right, isn't it the best feeling? So yeah, I hope that answers your question. To be honest, I'm still figuring it out. And generally, I would say I do have light to medium, but more erring on the lighter end of the spectrum. Really hope that I've covered everybody's questions there. I really do apologize if I haven't, but I hope that wasn't too boring for you to listen to. I will not be doing these very often, honestly. That was really hard trying to do my makeup and answering questions at the same time. Just learned that I'm not very good at multitasking. So I'm really sorry if this video is a million years long as well, but look, I just want to end by saying thank you so much. First of all, thank you for sending in a question. And even on my community post, all of the congratulations that I got were just wonderful. Just thank you for allowing me to get to this milestone, and just thank you for being here to support me. I appreciate you so, so much, more than you'll ever know. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I so appreciate you being here with me. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next video. But until then, take care and bye for now.